From taking a break from the show for personal reasons, to the possibility that the show might end too. Is Taylor Kinney really leaving Chicago Fire forever? It's confirmed that the actor is taking a break from the show. Now, Kinney has been a key player on the long-running series for 11 seasons, appearing in over 200 episodes. He has developed a dedicated fan base. The actor's temporary exit is apparently because of a personal matter, even though Kinney didn't appear in the Damage Control episode. His on-screen wife, Stella Kidd, acknowledged his character's absence and explained that Severide left to attend a top arson investigation program, which honestly doesn't seem like a forever situation. He's only gone to school, and chances are he'll be back soon. So it's definitely not a goodbye. The conversation between Captain Tom Van Meter and Wallace Bowden in the episode strongly tells us that Severide will be back, and his decision to attend the program will give him the expertise to help them all. But there has been radio silence on NBC's end. No one from the network has said anything about whether Kinney will be returning, or how they'll develop his character arc. But we do know that the show is really important to the network. Directed by the king of procedural dramas, Dick Wolf, it's a big part of both NBC and Peacock. Another thing to note is that the last renewal for Chicago Fire came in 2020, when they announced that they'd be adding another 3 seasons to the series. In April 2023, it was confirmed that all 3 Chicago shows have been renewed for the 2023-2024 season. So, could the 12th season of Chicago Fire be its final one? But then again, another season will definitely give the writers time to end the various character arcs. And who knows, we might even get to see Severide back at Firehouse 51 for a few episodes. Because honestly, I can't imagine going even one episode without seeing Severide's face. And let's face it, Severide's leadership can't be matched by anyone else on the team. Chicago Fire has plenty of likable characters, but Kelly Severide is the one character who stands out the most. Safe to say that he's the most integral part of the show, and a lot of the drama both on and off screen revolves around him. Fans of the show have developed a love for Kinney's character over the course of 11 seasons, and it's not hard to see why. Severide is a fantastic leader for the rest of Firehouse 51 to rally behind, which is one of the biggest reasons he's so valuable to Chicago Fire. As the lieutenant of Rescue Squad 3, he oversees some of the most dangerous missions for the Chicago Fire Department. Despite the high-pressure situations he often finds himself in, he remains level-headed and is often the first to enter these hot scenarios. Because of his leadership skills and the respect he demands, other characters like Joe Cruz and Blake Gallo often ask Severide for guidance. Without him, the show would lack the same level of intensity and excitement that it currently has. He's the glue that holds everything together, and his absence would leave a gaping hole in the show's dynamic. In a nutshell, Severide is the heart and soul of Chicago Fire. He has been a fan-favorite character since day one. Honestly, think about it. Who could up his mantle? No one. But for the sake of the show, they had to temporarily replace Severide, and Keith Bamford was chosen to take over as lieutenant at Firehouse 51. Now, Chicago Fire has a reputation for bringing in interesting characters when veterans miss several episodes. And it looks like they're doing it again with Kelly Severide's exit. The show has introduced an intriguing new character to fill his shoes. Initially, Chief Bowden wanted Joe Cruz, played by Joe Minoso, to step up and assume Severide's duties as lieutenant. But considering his current backbreaking workload on top of raising 2 small children, it's clear that Cruz wasn't up to the task. Instead, Bowden has decided to hire an outside floater to fill in until they can sort things out at Firehouse 51. Chris McKenna plays Keith Bamford, and will serve as the floater lieutenant until Severide returns, or until Bowden determines that someone in-house is ready to take on the responsibility. It's been confirmed that Bamford will be around for at least a few episodes, which implies that he will serve as a transitional character between lieutenants. The real question is, what happens if Cruz does get promoted to lieutenant? If Severide comes back, there'll be 3 lieutenants and only 2 spots. It's unclear at this point if any one of them will be leaving, or if they'll find a way to make it work. Regardless of what happens, it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. Now, if NBC's thinking about permanently replacing him, they'll need to bring in someone really good, because Severide's one of the most complex characters on the show. It's hard not to be drawn to the character. He's a sophisticated person with a tragic past that has left him with emotional baggage, and doesn't like getting too close to people. But over the course of the series, we've seen him overcome his demons and grow as a person, and his friendship with Casey showed us a softer side to him. Severide's addiction to painkillers was a low point for the character, but the show handled it well by showing him facing his addiction head-on and own up to his behavior. This kind of deep exploration of a character is rare on Chicago Fire, and Severide is one of the few characters to receive that type of attention. While some of the other firefighters on the show are charming in their own ways, Severide stands out as the most complex and interesting one. His exit will leave a void that will be difficult to fill, but it's possible that the show will find a way to continue to captivate viewers without him. Whatever happens, it's safe to say that fans of Chicago Fire will be eagerly watching to see how it all plays out. The only other character who has received a comparable level of development is Stella Kidd, but her story is so tied up with Severide's as his wife that it's hard to imagine her standing on her own. It's also true that while Severide and Stella's romance has been a highlight of Chicago Fire, the show has struggled to develop other compelling couples. In earlier seasons, the series explored relationships between characters like Dawson and Casey, or Dawson and Brett, but they never quite reached the same level of chemistry and excitement as Stellaride. The current romantic plot between Sylvie, Brett, and Dylan has potential, but it still feels underdeveloped compared to the deep emotional connection that Severide and Stella have. And even though Cindy and Christopher Herman's storylines have been touching, there's still some time before they can become a captivating on-screen couple. Other than the lack of development for other romances, Chicago Fire tends to fall back on overused tropes when it comes to relationships, like the will they won't they dynamic, or sudden breakups that seem to come out of nowhere. Overall, while Chicago Fire has done a great job with Severide and Stella's romance, there is definitely room for improvement in developing other compelling couples. Because that's what gets viewers invested in a TV show: relationships. And the one that has really stolen the hearts of Chicago Fire fans is Stellaride. Let's face it, without Kelly, the show wouldn't be the same. It's an important part of the series in many ways, and it's hard to imagine where the story would go without him. With season 12 on the horizon, it's crucial that Taylor Kinney remains a central figure on the show. Otherwise, who knows what might happen to the future of Chicago Fire. The hard reality here is that the show has too much riding on him. Without Severide, they would have to scratch everything and completely reinvent the show. But there's definitely something brewing behind the scenes. You see, Taylor Kinney's exit from Chicago Fire came right after the show's co-creator and co-showrunner Derek Haas left the series too. Haas announced his departure at the end of season 10 to focus on creating new shows. Despite this, he was committed to delivering amazing episodes of both Chicago Fire and FBI International through the end of their current seasons. In his statement, he expressed his gratitude towards Dick Wolf, Peter Jankowski, thanked Universal Television, NBC, and CBS for their constant support, and said that he looked forward to building his own brand in entertainment. Could it be that there's trouble in paradise? With the show creator himself leaving, the chances are that the show itself might be nearing its end soon. Chicago Fire has had a super successful run for 11 seasons, and has already been renewed for a 12th one. But NBC has released no news about further renewals. In most cases, shows are renowned for 2 or 3 seasons at a stretch, and the suddenness of Kinney's departure is even more troubling. The writers haven't even had enough time to write him out properly. So, from the possibility that Chicago Fire might be ending soon, to Kinney's personal issues being the reason for his break, chances are that Taylor might be leaving the show forever.